It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope everybody's doing okay. Real briefly, you know the routine. If you believe in the work we're doing, if you believe and support the content that we produce on this channel, if you believe in the work we do with Black Men Lead, the work we do with young women who are suffering from abuse, incest, so much more, mental health, our research center, our think tank. Again, the content that you're getting here consistently on a daily basis, look in the description box and find out how you can support our work. With that being said, look, a couple of things I'm going to touch on today so that you'll know. First one is going to be what's going on in Florida with this push to present as a part of the school curriculum in African American studies the idea that blacks benefited from slavery. And second of all, the sensitive approach to what's happening with Bronny James, which is the son of NBA player LeBron James. And this, again, we find ways to get on two sides of almost anything and rarely find the center of anything. But we're going to talk about that, a specific element and component of that. I'm probably going to be back on tomorrow to talk more in depth on both of these, because I think they both need a greater deal of exploration. But I'm going to address it here now because I have been asked on more than one occasion to do so. And so I'm going to at least open the door on today. So let's start with what's going on in Florida. And before I do, I'm probably going to upset some people. I'm going to probably upset some people. I hate this thing. I'm going to upset some people because you know how blacks love some Dems. So there's going to be a disclaimer to this because I think it's important that we put the disclaimer on it. This is being painted as the Republicans are in Florida and they are pushing for this school curriculum, and they're hanging everything on something that was said by the state's Governor Ron DeSantis. I want to, again, you have to put disclaimers on whenever you are going to call out Dems for anything. You have to put disclaimers and say, I'm not a Republican, I don't support this person or that person. But anybody who follows me knows that I don't trust or support the political system, period. We're talking about the right wing and the left wing. They both belong to the same bird. That bird has been shitting on black people for 400 plus years. Nothing has changed. They play the game from two different angles. Same outcome, been the same outcome. We are not fared better with either group. One just promises stuff, makes us feel good. The other just comes straight out and moves directly toward us. We either adjust or we get ran over. It's the same thing. One just makes us feel better when they do it. That's the only thing. So here is this thing. Anytime you start hearing the Republicans, start looking for Democrats, because I guarantee you that it's going to be liberal platforms from which these accusations are being hurled. Doesn't mean that it isn't true. It means that there's a political agenda. What you got to understand is education is not supposed to be a politicalized ideology, but it always has been, because, again, we are definitely handled and dealt with differently depending upon race and socioeconomic status. So the first and foremost is Democrats have not been able to deliver anything of substance to black people while consistently delivering major gains to groups like the LGBTQ community, the Latino community, and the Asian community in measurable, tangible policies, statutes, bills, and support, whereas we get lip service and nothing of intrinsic value, and this has gone on for over 60 years since the switch from Republican to Democrat became so adamant. Now, one day I'm going to really go through it, but I've written about it. If you want to go to the site, the Odyssey Project, and look up the two-party system, or look up, it's not a Confederate party, it's not a Tea Party, it's a Confederate party. Look up and understand exactly how things have played out over the last 150 plus years, and you'll see exactly what's happening. I don't have time to explain it in detail, but I've written it out, I've given it to you, I've shared with you some unbelievable work there, so go check it out. But what I can tell you is, get outside of your idea of Republicans good, Democrats bad, and everything that's being done wrong is the Republicans, everything done right is the Democrats, and start paying attention to how you actually progress by the things that are being done, or how you are actually being affected by the things being done. You have to keep in mind that while we're talking about education, the sitting president, who happens to be Democrat, was one of the major opponents of busing in the 60s and 70s, busing black kids to white schools. And let me quote him as saying he doesn't want his children's school environment turned into a jungle. This is the sitting white Democratic president. Also, this same president happens to be the one who authored the notorious crime bill of 1994 that black families are still being negatively impacted by. And while Clinton has come out and apologized and said that it was one of the blemishes on his presidential career, Biden has not. And he authored the bill. Okay, so we need to look at things, and this again is not giving praise to Republicans. This is sitting up and saying we need to be honest with ourselves about Democrats. Now let's look at this thing. Okay, the argument is that blacks benefited from slavery, and I've actually seen an idiotic black female preacher. I want to say her name is Reverend Daniels. Can't remember her first name, thank God, but her name is Reverend Daniels, and she's also a state representative in Florida, going around saying that we benefited from it. Now, obviously, that is someone who is trying to advance their political career by aligning with a certain political ideology, or trying to align with someone who is going to line her pockets for playing buffer, because that's what she's doing. She's buffering. I hate this thing. I'm gonna get something else. I got to. So she is saying that, but okay, let's look at it real briefly, and I mean briefly. The idea behind it all is that when slaves were kidnapped from their own lands, where we had artisans, we had carpenters, we had all of these different things in Africa, despite constantly trying to portray Africa as prehistoric, uncivilized, we are the origin of civilization, human civilization. This has been proven. This cannot be disputed. The continent of Africa is the origin of human civilization. Some of the most unbelievable architecture, some of the most unbelievable engineering ever done was done in Africa thousands of years before slavery. So the idea that we were some bungalow, every last one of us, and didn't have any idea of how to do, we were surviving and we were living. So the first thing you have to realize is whatever skills that may have been learned here cannot outweigh the fact that we were kidnapped from our own land where we were thriving and building. And right now today, some of the greatest architecture, some of the greatest infrastructure, some of the greatest and most beautiful cities are built and occupied, and wealth exists. Forget that we were kidnapped and taken away from the most wealthiest continent on the planet, the richest and most enriched, naturally enriched continent on the planet, and brought into a situation where we suffered 246 years of chattel slavery, the most brutal form of slavery ever known to mankind, cannot be compared to anything previously in history. So forget that, but you can't, because it shows up still today in multi-generational trauma, in certain learned behaviors, in certain ideologies, in our struggle to completely adapt in an environment that we never ever truly was invited to. So again, we talk about these supposed skills that we learned. We brought with us a lot of skills. We brought with us ingenuity and creativity. You got to think almost all of the inventions during that time and subsequent to slavery was created by black people to make their jobs easier. So a lot of the things that we are experiencing and living in now came from the genius and the creativity of black people. So white people benefited again from slavery by just having our genius and our presence. So this idea that somehow they did us a favor is BS. In the worst type of way. But again, it's the same thing when they wanted to remove. Now you got to understand, being in Texas, I'm in a state where they have literally put out textbooks classifying blacks as being involuntary immigrants. Anything but a slave, anything but someone kidnapped from their native land and brought here against their will, slavery. Involuntary immigrants. Anything to ease the cognitive dissonance associated with the atrocity called slavery that comes with a price and a call for recompense. See, the more they try to escape the idea that they owe us, the more they have to justify their behavior and why it shouldn't be a level of reparations. And I believe reparations have to go beyond financial compensation. And I think compensation is owed to every descendant of slaves. Our ancestors cannot claim what was rightfully theirs, but that debt has been passed down by way of lineage, and we have a right to collect it. And we need to develop the power to collect it. What we have to do in that instance is develop the economic force to apply economic discomfort in areas that says we're going to be a problem until you run us our money. And that is something that we have yet to do. And until we do, we can talk all day long. They are showing you by this. And what we have to understand is what they're doing, what the Democrats are doing is they're taking a soundbite from Ron DeSantis and making it a political issue, when you got to understand, white and black scholars on the Board of Education in the state of Florida agreed to this. DeSantis got called out on it and spoke from an uneducated position, and you could tell through his ramblings. Is what he says. What you'll probably see is that there were some skill. So he doesn't even know completely why they're doing it. So, but it's going to rest on his shoulders because it's his state, and it's a Republican state, so it gets to say, hey, this is what's going on. But what I can tell you is the most crime-ridden, most run-down, most threatening states are states that are Democratic. Go look at the highest crime rates, the highest murder rates, especially where blacks are dying and cities are being run down. And I guarantee you have Democratic mayors, and most likely that state has Democratic governors. This, again, is not a praise of... this is not a praise for Republicans, because if you go to Republican states, you're going to see higher arrest rates and higher incarceration rates, and predominantly black. So you're going to see it on both sides. What I'm trying to get you to understand is we don't win in this thing if we don't take control of our own destiny. But the idea that Dems are doing us a favor and fighting for us and fighting racism is BS. Has always been BS. Again, you got two wings, right wing, left wing. That bird doesn't go anywhere if either one of those wings aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. A two-party system gives you the impression that you only have two choices. So you vote for the lesser evil, and the Dems are just, for black people, the lesser evil. For white people, the Republicans are the lesser evil. And then all the other groups get somewhere in the middle and figure out where they fit in for the lesser evil. The truth of the matter is, until we create other alternatives, we will always be at the mercy of the people that we elect, because they are not obligated to act on our behalf after elected. Okay, so that's that. Now, this Bronny James thing. First and foremost, my prayers go out to the James family. I can't imagine having a child in cardiac arrest. Actually, I can. I've had a son who's had open heart surgery as a young kid. didn't go into cardiac arrest or anything, but did find an issue. So, but here's what I will say is this. There are some people who have gone to the extreme and have been very disrespectful, very insensitive. And then there are those who have some legitimate questions, and I think there needs to be a distinguishing barrier between the two, because there are some people that are saying this is not the time. Well, actually, when you have a country who ran amok and mishandled and misled and did so much over the last few years with this epidemic and turned people against one another and did all the things, and we're starting to see some real truths come to bear and play out, I think that people have a right to ask questions. People have a right to be concerned. People have a right to be inquisitive. People don't have a right to be insensitive. People don't have a right to be mean. Now, people will still do it because in this country there's freedom of speech. When I say don't have a right, I mean from a moral and ethical and respectful position. There should be certain things you just simply don't do. I don't care how you feel about LeBron James as a player. He is, to me, a great father and a great husband, and someone that I look at from where I'm sitting and everything I've ever learned and know about him to really and truly say, hey, this is something that, okay, I would like to see more young men do. So in essence, I want to say that, yes, I think that we've got to be a lot more sensitive in how we address situations like this. I think everybody has a family, and no matter what, and this kid didn't do anything to anybody. He's just trying to live out his own dream in some very big shadows. And this happens, and I know he's got to be scared right now. He's got some questions, and everybody's concerned. And the last thing I think anybody in the James household right now is thinking about is basketball. So my love and my light and my prayers go out to that family. But for the people who are saying, hey, I wonder if, could it be? They got a right to ask that question, because, you know, the James family doesn't have to answer it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the question should be brought up because nobody put a check on things when the stuff was being pushed. So then when you get these things where now all of a sudden you've got young kids having cardiac arrests on a consistent basis out of nowhere, you got people under the age of 40 dropping like flies, all from the same thing. You got a right to sit up and say, I wonder what the hell is going on. And especially the people who actually partook and bought into what was being pushed, because there are consequences that lie in front of them, or let me straighten out, potential consequences that lie in front of them. Nobody knows, because there isn't enough evidence to predict what's coming. And that's the thing that I tried to share and got censored on, shut on. I mean, stuff pulled, all kind of stuff, to the point where you just realize you can't say anything against the power structure and keep a voice. And that's when I started talking about we need our own. Well, I've been talking about it. Working with alt-black news, alt-black media, Sister Nyota Yora, Dr. Michael Blanchard, some others in black media. We've been talking about it for a long time. We don't get the support nearly we need. We love hanging on these people's platforms and being ruled and controlled by them. And the only place we can get a voice is on these people's platforms, because we won't build our own. That's a problem. But it is what it is. I'm not going to dwell on that. But what I will tell you is this: hey, we've got to give space for the people who have those questions. They have a right to have those questions, because this isn't an isolated incident that we're saying simply respect someone's privacy. We're respecting their privacy, but because they have such exposure, everything that happens comes out, and what we understand is they are simply a microcosm of a much larger reality, and that reality includes us. And so we have a right to ask the question based on that. So I just wanted to leave it on that. I'm going to get ready to get off, get in here, try to unwind. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, if you believe in the work we do, if you support the content you're getting here, if you support what we have done in the community for decades, look in the description box and find out how you can support what we do. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day.